Not until now. Not until she was 86 years old did Christina Crawford truly open up. You might think you know everything about her horrifying relationship with Joan Crawford through Mommie, Dearest. But there's a terrible, cruel truth Joan did that Christina never revealed. Until this very moment. Brace yourself. To begin this haunting story, let's step back in time to explore the complex background and relationship that shaped Christina Crawford's life under the shadow of her legendary adoptive mother. Joan Crawford, screen queen and controversial mother. Joan Crawford. That name alone conjures a world of opulence, glamour, and absolute power on the Hollywood silver screen. She wasn't just a movie star, she was an icon, a legend of the golden age with expressive eyes, sharp lips, and an unmistakably captivating demeanor. From her strong, determined roles in Mildred Pierce to her deadly charm in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Joan etched her image into the public consciousness, becoming the embodiment of a mesmerizing yet equally mysterious feminine power. Yet behind the stage lights and dazzling applause lay a completely different picture, a private side that few dared to reveal. Joan Crawford, that talented and ambitious woman, was also described as a frighteningly complex character. Perhaps the pressure of fame, the wounds of an impoverished childhood, or something deeper forged a person who always craved control, perfection, and absolute power not just on set, but within her own home. She demanded absolute obedience from those around her, from her housekeeper to her adopted children. It was in this suffocating and authoritarian atmosphere that Christina Crawford's life began, not with a cry of birth into loving arms, but with an entry into a world where mother-child affection seemed distorted by rigid rules and strict control. The public's image of Joan Crawford was that of a flawless star. But for Christina, she was a mother whose presence was both a light and a shadow cast over her entire childhood. Christina and Mommie, Dearest. Christina Crawford entered Joan Crawford's life not by birth, but as one of 4 children adopted by the star in her quest to build a complete family. From the earliest days, the young girl's life was overshadowed by immense expectations and unrealistic demands from her famous adoptive mother. Joan wanted her children to be perfect, flawless, reflecting the ideal family image she wished to project to the public. Yet behind closed doors, this perfection was enforced with harsh punishments, severe verbal abuse, and sometimes even physical and emotional mistreatment. The book, Mommie, Dearest, published in 1978, just 1 year after Joan Crawford's death, rocked Hollywood and sent shockwaves through public opinion worldwide. In this scandalous memoir, Christina bravely exposed a tragic childhood at the hands of her adoptive mother. She recounted nights of being woken up mid-sleep to do chores, merciless beatings over a misplaced coat hanger, or being tied to her bed and starved. The stories Christina described in the book painted a completely different portrait of Joan Crawford. Not the glamorous movie star, but a woman obsessed with cleanliness, fame, and control, who was willing to unleash her rage on her vulnerable children. Mommie, Dearest immediately ignited a furious debate. On one hand, many expressed shock and deep sympathy for Christina, believing she had been courageous enough to tell the raw truth. On the other hand, many, especially friends and colleagues of Joan Crawford, publicly dismissed the book, claiming Christina had exaggerated or even fabricated stories for money and revenge against her deceased mother. They described Joan as a strict but loving woman, and what Christina wrote was merely a distorted version of the truth. Despite the controversies surrounding the absolute accuracy of every detail, Mommie, Dearest became a cultural phenomenon. It not only redefined Joan Crawford's image, for many transforming her from an icon into a villain in her own daughter's life, but also opened up an important dialogue about domestic violence, child abuse, and the dark underbelly of glamour. For Christina, the book was an affirmation of the pain she had endured, an attempt to find liberation and justice. It was also a testament to the incredible resilience of a child who survived a challenging childhood and found her voice. Now, decades after Mommie, Dearest was published, when the controversies seem to have subsided, Christina Crawford, at 86 years old, is once again drawing fans into an emotional whirlwind. She has just revealed another cruel act by Joan Crawford, a detail never before publicly disclosed, and it is leaving fans in tears. Christina's shocking revelation at 86. Time can be a healer, but for Christina Crawford, some wounds run so deep they merely await a moment of sufficient calm, sufficient courage to be named. Now, at 86, with silver hair and eyes that have weathered life's many storms, Christina has once again made the world hold its breath as she revealed a cruel detail, a hidden facet that even Mommie, Dearest never fully explored. This isn't just a story. It's the whispered plea of a deeply wounded soul kept secret for decades, a persistent pain that lingered with her through every breath. This revelation didn't come from a noisy press conference, a shocking new publication, or a sensational television show. Instead, it emerged in a heartfelt conversation, a moment of rare trust, where Christina felt safe enough to release a burden that had weighed her down her entire life. With a voice that was slightly trembling, yet resolute, her gaze distant, as if staring into an indelible past, Christina recounted an event that even now she cannot forget. It was a cold evening in a large house devoid of warmth, when Joan Crawford, in an inexplicable fit of rage, decided to punish Christina in a way the innocent child could never comprehend. A cruel method aimed directly at the little girl's heart and soul. She made me stand there in the middle of the vast living room. Christina recounted, her voice still catching slightly as she reminisced. The light from the crystal chandelier shone down, revealing tiny dust motes in the air, making the space even colder and more isolated. I thought I was going to be hit like so many other times. I braced myself for blows to the bottom or stinging slaps to the cheek, but no. This time, it was worse, because it aimed at things priceless to a child. Joan Crawford, with a chillingly cold expression and eyes gleaming with terrifying cruelty, did not use whips or harsh insults. She didn't need physical violence to inflict horrifying pain. Instead, she performed a psychological act intended to utterly devastate the child's spirit, stripping away every joy and sense of security Christina possessed. Joan forced Christina to watch piece by piece as her most beloved toys were deliberately destroyed by her own hands. Christina described the scene with pain still so present it felt as though it happened yesterday. She didn't say a word, just the terrible ripping sound of the doll dresses I had meticulously sewn the splintering wood as she stomped on the wooden toy car I had cherished, and then the sound of the music box being smashed onto the marble floor. That music box, with its sparkling notes like a child's laughter, was the first birthday gift Christina could remember, the only item she felt connected to a rare, beautiful memory. The sound of the last notes slowly faded like a farewell, not just to the toy, but to the last bit of innocence within me. For a child, toys are not just inanimate objects. They are friends, a private world, a refuge for imagination and boundless dreams. They are a means to explore the world, to learn about love and sharing. Witnessing everything one cherishes most, one's silent and dearest friends deliberately destroyed before one's very eyes, by the very mother who should have loved and protected, was a devastating psychological shock. It not only deprived Christina of her toys, but also robbed her of her trust, innocence, and sense of security. It planted a seed of fear and loss in her heart, a feeling of utter powerlessness against her adoptive mother's brutal authority. I stood there, unable to cry. Tears seemed to freeze in my eyes, Christina recalled with a heavy sigh. There was just a chilling emptiness, a paralyzing numbness that enveloped me. It was as if my soul was also shattered into tiny pieces along with those innocent toys. This cruel act left no physical scars, no bruises or marks of a beating. But it left a deep emotional wound, a void in Christina's soul that even now, at 86, still haunts her, still exists as an unnamed pain. It was the moment Christina felt completely stripped of everything, denied her self-worth, and pushed into a world where the love and warmth of family seemed only a cruel illusion. This revelation has added a new layer of tragedy to Christina Crawford's already tragic story. It is not only further proof of Joan Crawford's horrifying abusive behaviors, but also shows that cruelty can manifest in many forms, not just through beatings or insults, but through a deliberate, elegant, yet incredibly malicious destruction of the spirit. It makes listeners realize that even though Christina found her voice through Mommie, Dearest and tried to heal her wounds, there are still pains, still scars she has carried throughout her life, secrets that only time and courage could reveal. And her choice to share this at 86 is not just an extraordinary act of bravery, but a powerful reminder of the lasting destructive impact of childhood trauma and how it can shape a person even when they stand at the peak of their life. A wave of emotion overwhelms fans. Christina Crawford's revelation, though softly and sincerely told immediately, sent shockwaves through the fan community and online forums. The previously unknown information about Joan Crawford's cruel act quickly spread across social media entertainment news sites, and especially discussion groups dedicated to Hollywood legends. No sensational headlines were needed. Christina's deeply emotional story found its own way into the hearts of millions. The public's reaction was a powerful blend of many emotions. Thousands of comments and messages poured in, expressing sorrow, grief, and profound empathy for Christina. Fans wept not only for a young Christina who had endured horrific emotional pain, but also for the childhood traumas that many of them might have experienced themselves. Christina's pain seemed to touch a common wound in many hearts, making them realize that abuse isn't just about bruises, but about invisible scars deeply embedded in the soul. Along with the empathy came a fierce wave of indignation directed at Joan Crawford. The image of a glamorous, talented star suddenly appeared darker than ever in the light of this new revelation. Many expressed anger and disappointment upon realizing that behind the glitz, Joan was such a cruel and malicious person. The debate about Joan Crawford's legacy, whether artistic talent can compensate for personal failings, once again flared up intensely. For those who had believed Christina's story in Mommie, Dearest, but still harbored doubts about certain details, this new revelation served as a powerful confirmation. It strengthened their belief in what Christina had endured, proving that the stories in the book were not fabrications or exaggerations, but part of a painful truth. Even those who once criticized Christina for slandering her mother now had to reevaluate their stance when confronted with such a cruel detail. Most importantly, this revelation sparked an essential dialogue about domestic violence and child abuse, particularly the often overlooked forms of emotional abuse. Christina's story emphasizes that harm doesn't only come from physical blows, but also from psychologically destructive actions, toxic words, and controlling behaviors. It reminds everyone of the importance of recognizing and speaking out against all forms of abuse and their long-lasting consequences for victims. In a world saturated with information and shocking stories, the fact that a revelation from decades ago can still deeply touch millions shows the power of truth and the resonance that Christina Crawford's story brings. It exposes a chillingly cruel side of Joan Crawford, the legendary star whom we may have idolized or criticized, but few truly understood the torment she inflicted. The revelation of destroying her child's toys is not just an isolated act. It's a symbol of a profound type of emotional abuse, leaving an indelible scar on a child's soul. Christina Crawford's story at 86 is not just a recounting, but a cry from the past, piercing through time to reach us today. It's a reminder that no matter how dazzling the spotlight, darkness can still lurk, and the pain of a wounded child can echo through generations. What do you think when you hear this? Does it change how you perceive a Hollywood icon, or does it make you think more about the invisible burdens each person might carry? Whatever your thoughts. Christina's story is a testament to the unshakable power of truth and to the courage it takes to finally confront the ghosts of the past. If you feel moved, if this story has touched you, don't hesitate to share your thoughts. And if you wish to continue exploring these haunting yet incredibly true stories of unique lives, subscribe to our channel to not miss out on future content. Because sometimes the hidden truths are precisely the ones most worth hearing.